Most people think starting over is a fresh start, a new job, a new city, a clean slate. But what it's more like is a mirror to your life that you can't put down. And here's the thing, you still bring your patterns, you still bring your fears, you still bring yourself that is willing to play small rather than risk being rejected for that. And you don't see that clearly until you actually walk away from something, until you decide to start over. And over the past few years, I have quit jobs. I have stepped out of roles that looked perfect on paper, but didn't make sense in the long term. And I relocated my family. I was in a career for 15 years thinking this was going to be the thing I did for the rest of my life. And I pivoted, I changed. My family moved across the country and I started over. And it has not been romantic. It has been clarifying. You really find out who you are, and it's been brutal. So I want to share with you 10 sobering truths that I've learned along the way. And it's not to scare you. This is not to scare you. This is not to put all this fear inside of your mind. What this is because if you learn these truths ahead of time, you're less likely to view discomfort as failure. And that's really important because in that, then you will stay in this process till you become someone you're actually proud of. So let's dive into truth number one. And truth number one is this: ending is a natural part of life. It is actually the soil for new beginnings. And I think we don't like to end things. We like to think that things are going to go on forever. And when we recognize that ending is a natural part of life and not a sign of failure or not a sign of something has gone terribly wrong, but that it's actually some things need to end and they need to stop. And those endings are actually the launching point for something new. Think, this get a little metaphysical here and maybe a little bit different for you, but think about a caterpillar. A caterpillar transitions into a butterfly, and that butterfly process, it doesn't look at the caterpillar stage and go, that's a failure. It was a necessary stage for the next stage. And if you look at your endings as something you need to resist because it means you failed, then you'll never actually make the right step to starting over because you're constantly going to resist that feeling of failure when everything around you is saying you actually need to start over and you need to end this and start something new in your life. So truth number two is stop being unrealistic. Don't romanticize what you're currently doing, which is a real risk. We romanticize what we're doing because what we're actually scared of is getting to the truth of it. We're nervous that if we don't look at it with positive rose-colored lenses, if we don't constantly look at it through positivity, we will be doing some kind of ungrateful exercise. We will be ungrateful people. There's so many people who would wish to have what you have. There's so many people who, my gosh, if they want a job, look how many people are unemployed. What you'll do is you'll resist the change because you start to romanticize where you're at. You're like, it's not that bad. These people, look how good they actually are. Or look how good my boss it was this one time. Or look how meaningful this job was during this time of my life. Something can be good and still need to end. So when you overly romanticize, you blind yourself to change. So 3 would be your ego will say you've invested too much into this. You've done too much to start over. And the truth is there's too much life to live. And there's so much. There's a quote in The Artist's Way. My wife and I were talking about it the other day where Julia Cameron says this, that the student comes to her and says, well, how old will I be when I finally finish all these courses and all the classwork I've got to do for this career? They were changing careers. And she said, you'll be the same exact age as if you didn't even do any of this. And that's the truth. It's such a hard-hitting reality that even you have so much left to do that all that you've invested in that should not be the reason you don't explore what's ahead. And all that investment wasn't wasted. It was necessary to get you where you are, but you can't let how much you've invested sink your ship. Because what you will do is, again, you will blind your eye because of how much you've put into something. It's like a bad relationship where you're like, I put so much into this and this person is still abusing me. I'm like, well, this is a really bad plan to count your investment as the reason to stay. And I think we do that with careers all the time. We do that with jobs. We do that with other opportunities in our company. We've been doing this too long. We've invested too much to turn around. And the reality is there's too much worth it if you change and too much at risk if you don't change. So that's the third one here. The fourth one is your fear of what others will say about you never goes away. Man, this is real. Man, this is real. You will constantly have these battles of these internal thoughts that that sound like you, and you also have these internal thoughts that sound like all your friends, all your acquaintances, all the random person that you talked to one time who said something to you that you now have to remember in this very moment, and you don't know why you're remembering it in this very moment, but it's affecting your behavior. But you're thinking more about what they're going to say, and you're wondering, will this ever go away when I change? No, sorry. Along the journey of this change that I made from 15 years in one career and the last 3 years, changing another job 8 months into it and selling my house and realizing I wasn't going to be able to buy another house because I sold my house. And there was a lot of things I had going for me. So I'm not implying that this won't be different for everyone. Everyone's going to have their own reality here. And some people are going to have bigger risks than others. And that's true. And I'm not saying my risk was the giant risk here, moving my family across the country, selling my house, quitting my job. Like, there's elements of my risk that are mine, but they're not yours. But that doesn't mean they're not real risks for you and real risks for me. But the fear of what others are going to say, that keeps going, because in every stage, you're still going to make changes, and you're going to go, man, what are these people saying about this? Oh, what are these people going to say about me now? Oh, they're going to say, oh, look, you're always going to have this voice that sounds like your friends or sounds like a random person that you once talked to that shouldn't matter. And you're wondering, when I get this right, those things are going to go away. That's when I'm able to silence all these voices, it just doesn't. You have to face and accept the fact that people will talk, and some people aren't talking that you think are. And the reality is, some people are just going to keep saying stuff, and you just got to walk past it, and you got to accept it and move forward. That fear of people saying stuff about you never goes away in this process. You're always going to feel a bit of it of external judgment to your actions, because you also are kind of challenging the status quo, the comfort of everyone else. You're showing them, I'm not going to buy into the system that everybody's bought into forever. So I am going to challenge, and I am going to get some feedback about how I do things that I'm just going to have to resist, because I know I'm on the right path forward. Now, the next one for me is your next step most likely won't hit the mark. And that's really hard to hear. That's harsh, because you're thinking, I'm taking so much courage to move out of this thing and move into this. So this has got to work, because I'm taking all this effort, all this energy to go from this job to this job, for example. Like for me, I went from my one job to the next job, and within I was in that job for about 6 months, 6 or 7 months. I can't exactly remember. But in that process, at one point, I realized this is not the right thing for me. But it was a great step forward. It was a great push in the right direction, but it wasn't the final step. It made sense on paper, but it wasn't making sense in real life. So I had to make a choice again in that moment, realizing I have to accept that my step I took right there isn't going to be the next step forever right now. And I had to remove that mindset of my next step needs to be my forever step because I'm getting out of something else. And this needs to be the next forever thing. And it's just not. When you accept that your next step might not hit the mark, you free yourself from that pressure you feel to say, the next career choice or the next step I make has to be everything, because it won't be. You'll take a risk and you'll realize it's not this, it's something else. And that's okay. That's part of the process. It's hard to accept, but it is part of the process of starting over. Now, the next one is your small steps sometimes don't survive. Your next step may not be the right one, but sometimes your small steps don't survive. You actually start to nurture a couple other things, and they have a little bit of momentum, and you feel good about them. And then all of a sudden they don't work. And you're realizing that was also a carry-on moment. That was not a moment that lasts forever. It was a transition moment. It was a moment that allowed me to go forward, get some more clarity, because each of the choices you make when you're starting over is that mirror you're holding up to yourselves that I mentioned in the beginning, that is clarifying who you are and the things you love, the things you want to continue doing, and the things you want to stop doing. And your next steps you take, you realize if you're honest enough with yourself, you'll recognize, I don't like this and I don't want to keep doing this. And that's okay. You have to keep that muscle alive. You don't have to just accept your next step or your small steps and saying, these have to be forever now. No. You could take your next step and go, I don't like it. I'm going to change again. That's okay. Society and culture wants you to have this sense of stability and responsibility. Stick with it. Why are you a flaky person? No, you're not. You're actually fighting to find who you truly are. And it's okay to keep shedding layers as you're learning that. As kids, we do that, but as grownups, we do not. As kids, one week we love Legos and the next week we hate Legos and we like something else. But as grown-ups, we think that's irresponsible. And in this process of you becoming the person you're proud of when you're starting over, you need to accept that your small steps won't survive. And that's okay. The next one is the fear of unknown pain makes the current pain feel doable. I'm going to say that again. The fear of unknown pain. What could happen? I don't know. The risk feels too risky. I don't know what's going to happen to me there. I don't know the cost. I don't know all the things that are going to come my way if I do this. That fear almost makes you go back to accepting this as doable when it is not doable anymore. You're betraying yourself over here, but this fear of this unknown pain is causing you to accept this betrayal of yourself. It's really hard. It's like the phrase, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And here's the truth. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't often overpromises and underdelivers because it's still a devil that's killing you. It's messing you up. It's jacking you up. You're betraying yourself. You're living inconsistent with who you are on a regular basis. This is the person that's like, I've been in this relationship too much. I've invested too much. What if I'm never going to find somebody? And the fear of never finding somebody keeps them in relationships they were never meant to stay in. So we have to start to look at the potential pain as saying, there's going to be hard either way. This is not a question of hard. So when you remove the idea of pain in your life as the determining factor here, you can accept the risk because you're saying both of these are going to be extremely painful. If I betray myself long enough, will there be anything left of me? Then if I take the risk, it's going to be costly and painful. But what if I find something of who I am and I start to gain traction in my life? So that's a real thing you have to look at, because that unknown pain of like, oh my gosh, what is this going to do for my finances? This brings me tons of security. I don't know what's going to happen over there. I don't know how, but this is killing me on the inside. I'm dying every day. And listen, some of you are ready to take a risk financially and some of you are not. And you need to do the prep work. You need to go and, I sold my house so that I could take some of that income, some of that money from selling my house and save it so that I could go on this journey. Not everybody can do that, but if you can, you should do that. Get that emergency if you can. But some of you can't. You've got to figure out another plan. But betraying yourself is not the best plan, okay? What I did give up in that process was the future home. I couldn't buy the home I wanted to buy. I don't own a home now, but I'm able to set up and I'm living a life more fulfilling than I ever was. So just a little side note there. All right, the next one. You have to face the flaws you developed in survival mode that don't serve you anymore. When you're on this journey, the mirror you hold up to yourself when you're starting over, you start to see the habits, the flaws you created in yourself that don't serve you anymore. They just don't serve you. They're not they're not the things that make for a thriving life. They helped you in that time. They helped you in that season of life to get you where you wanted to go. They helped you make do in that place, but they created habits that you don't want to take with you. So for example, things like when you're in an environment with high politics in an organization, you start to develop ways of kind of shouldering your way through things, or perspectives you start to think about yourself so that you can accept how the culture is operating. And then you move to another organization and that's not there, but you still act the same way. You have to address that. It's like a dog that's sadly been beaten, so to speak. And when he goes to a new home and the person steps towards them to pet them and they shrug down, it's that reality of your body has kind of owned flaws in a way that need to be addressed, because you're going to go into the next environment and you're going to sabotage yourself. Over here, you were betraying yourself. Now you're going to potentially sabotage yourself because you're not addressing the flawed behaviors you adopted in that season to survive, but you don't need them anymore. You don't need to survive like that. So you have to address them when you start to see them, instead of bypassing them and ignoring them, going, okay, this is the way you succeed. No, you've got to address them. You've got to slow down and address them. Now, number 9, the way to look at number 9 is it, I would say it like this: starting over isn't starting from zero. As you go through this journey of starting over, you can feel very much so like you are starting from zero. You are at the bottom, you are behind. And by certain metrics, you might be, and you might be a little bit behind on some of the goals you would like in your life because you stayed too long in something. but you're not starting over. There's wisdom if you look for it. There's wisdom in that life you lived that then gets you where you are and you can take with you and you can learn and you can recognize. I had recognized certain things in organizations that sounded and felt like organizations I left. So I had to recognize going, you know what? The wisdom tells me this isn't going to work because I know this story. I've seen this movie before and I don't want to do that. So you have to recognize you're not starting from zero, right? You're starting over, but you're taking wisdom with you, the learned experiences. So someone said it like this, if you're wondering, what does that even mean? Wisdom, taking my wisdom with me. There's a popular quote that says, knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. So it's taking the applied knowledge. It's going, I know this, and applying it to your situation. That means you have wisdom. If you just know about it, but you don't apply it, you have knowledge, you don't have wisdom. So allow yourself to have wisdom from your past experiences, where you take the knowledge of it and you apply it to help you navigate your current situation. Now, number 10, right? This is the last one here. And you feel this one. It's the last one for a reason, because it's going to feel like death. You're going to grieve. The amount of times where I found myself just crying in the shower because I was like, what did I just do? Or, man, I really miss this thing. And that's not a sign that you made the wrong choice. Missing parts of your life you left is not a sign that you were supposed to stay in it. Grieving is simply the idea that something mattered to you. It was important to you. You actually loved it. And in loving it and you let go, there's grieving. And that grieving is very, very normal. But when you're starting over, the grieving makes you think that you need to go back. You need to go do that thing again. You need to go take back that job, do that old thing, or go back to that spot, because that's going to help you feel good again. When in reality, you're just grieving because something that you loved, something that was valuable for you, is no longer in your life. And that's sad and painful and sometimes scary. But grieving it like it's a death is okay, because it allows for new life to come in other forms and fashions. And you may rediscover those passions elsewhere. But what you don't want to do is make the grieving the sign that you need to go back, because it's not always that case. Sometimes that may be, but most of the time I really think you are actually just grieving something that mattered to you. All right, well, if any of this was something that was interesting to you and you've started over yourself and you're like, I've gone on this journey, this is what I've done, I've restarted my career, what did you do? I'd love to hear your ways of navigating starting over in the comments. Put them in there. Let me see what you guys have done along your journey of starting over. And if this is something that resonated with you and you are on that journey of starting over, I just want to tell you that you can actually get through this. It's going to be okay. Hear these truths, follow them, but also subscribe. Subscribe to the channel, because we're going to continually offer wisdom for becoming a person of character. And I want you to be on that journey with me. So make sure you like and subscribe.